Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Dial Square is a kind of soap.
Oh, I get that one.
Well, Arran, why don't you give us a little bit of history on what the Dial Square and not the bar soap, but the Dial Square that we would be talking about. What's the history on that?
Well, I can't speak to the soap. I'm not sure I know anything about the soap, I'll be honest with you. But, no, of course, the team that we love and care for, Arsenal, as they're known today, originally started off way back in the 1880s as Dial Square. And they were based down in Woolwich, and then I think they only lasted one season as Dial Square, and they decided that's a little rubbish. And decided, well, you know, we work at the Woolwich Armaments for the British Navy. Why don't we call ourselves the Gunners? Or the Arsenal, shall I say? The Arsenal, yes.
From what I understand, the Dial Square came from a sundial that was on top of the building.
All right, how nice, how nice. I'm so glad that they've changed the name. Because, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to have that sort of cachet, I guess, as a nice cannon.
You know, I'm just surprised that that's the one Phil landed on. For the past couple weeks, as we've taken the Thanksgiving holiday off and I was on vacation, Phil kept sending us different intros into our group chat, and so that's the one he went with.
That's funny he landed on. And God help it, doesn't Arsenal need some help right now? So I guess, you know, that's probably all we're going to talk about Arsenal tonight. Am I right, Matt?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
No, I'd rather not.
Well, they did actually pull out of their slump yesterday and got a 3-1 win over West Ham. So maybe things are turning in the right direction for Dial Square.
Dial Square was... I see what you did there, Phil. That was very good. It was certainly a very good 10 minutes there for the Arsenal. But I'm yet to be convinced otherwise. You know, form is fleeting, and they seem to have very little of that form at the moment. So anyway.
Well, what have we got coming up on tonight's show, Arran?
Well, it's one of the busiest times of the year, especially on the footballing calendar. We've got Premier League, EFL Championship, League One, League Two, Champions League, Europa League, and a whole lot more leagues. Not to mention, it's sacking season, and the winter transfer window is almost upon us. We've got a whole lot to go over tonight, so let's get right into this very busy edition of Across the Pitch. But first, Matt.
Make sure you head on over to your social media accounts and give us a follow. You can find us on Facebook at Across the Pitch, on Instagram at Across the Pitch, and on Twitter at Across Pitch. That's where we'll interact on game days, match days, whatever you want to call it. So head on over there and give us a follow.
Hell yeah.
And my name is Phil Kennedy, and as always, I'm here with my co-hosts,
Arran and
Matt Robards.
Mr. Wizard.
and Arran, like you said, it certainly has been sacking season. I mean, there's been more sacks in the Premier League than the potato harvest in Idaho.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in the Cardinals' offense, but okay.
I was hoping for maybe a little Christmas jingle, you know, like, 'tis the season to get sacked.
You probably put that in. What do you reckon?
And so it all kind of started off with the Spurs sacked Mauricio Pochettino and brought our favorite man Jose Mourinho back, and then the cards have been falling since then. Of course, over at Dial Square, they have sacked Unai Emery and have Freddie Lundberg as the caretaker right now. Everton, they sacked Marco Silva.
That was a long time coming, that one, wasn't it, man? That was the most drawn-out sacking I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, for weeks and weeks, you thought it was coming, and then it finally came down, and then, what about the nonsense at Watford?
I mean, what are they sacked? They've sacked two coaches this year, haven't they, Matt?
So, so technically, I mean, it started with Watford back in, I think, September was when they let Javi Garcia go. And then, they just got let rid of Kiko. So they're on their third manager right now. Their caretaker, Nigel Pearson's in there. So
Aren't they? Nigel Pearson will probably be good for them. But going back to the first coach, and you know what? He was only there for 4 games, so I barely, 4 games, mind you. So I barely got to know, what was it, the name of Garcia?
Yeah, Javi Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, that's surely a club that, you know, at least Arsenal fans can say, well, at least we're not Watford.
Hey, I mean, he did take them to the FA Cup final last year where they got, destroyed, right. But that's maybe we don't talk about that. It was 6-0 at the hands of Manchester City. So yeah, they kicked things off, and then they continued the trend. I guess they saw other clubs sacking managers, and they said, wait, we started this. Let's not forget that. And so, right.
Hold my beers.
So, yeah, we got some coaching. And it's not even just in the EPL, man. I mean, you got Byron sacked their coach.
I mean, with Watford, you got to figure that their chances of avoiding relegation aren't much more than a candle in the wind.
Oh, nice one, Phil. Yes. There was a reference there to Elton John, a former owner of Watford, for fans who have only just joined us this week. Hey, we're still yet to get your call there, Elton. By the way, mate, come on.
Yeah, we need to get that Crocodile Rock on the show.
Crocodile Dundee versus Crocodile Rock. I'm sure it's been done before, but it'll be done better than ever on this show.
So I guess the thing to talk about with these sackings is one's already been permanently filled. We have Jose Mourinho, the new Tottenham manager.
Well, permanently for
the next 2.5 years, he'll be managing Tottenham until it all goes. But knowing how Tottenham is, he might make it to year 4. Who knows? What about? But we got some caretakers stepping in. We got some other managers on the hot seat. Who do we think's taking over some of these jobs?
I think Nigel Pearson's there till the end of the season. He's not a very fancied coach there at Watford, but you know what? He is probably one of those old school style coaches that will get the most out of the squad. And they're going to be scrapping all season long for every point they can get. That's probably what they need, is one of those type of men.
Yeah, I don't see that Watford would change a third time within one season. That would be quite a bit.
Well, I think Watford's kind of in that place where one win in 16 games this year. They're sitting at 9 points at the bottom of the table. This might be one of those, you know what, let's kind of, this was a bad year. Let's regroup next year. We'll bring in a guy in the summer. Right. We'll overhaul things in the championship. We'll work our way back up. So I think he's there to stay, yeah.
Yeah, probably. I'm surprised they didn't call in Big Sam Allardyce, although maybe Arsenal's looking for Big Sam to get him out of a relegation scrap.
Right, yeah. So what about Everton? So Everton got rid of Marco Silva, brought in...
Emery is going to... it's going to be good evening, Everton.
They got club legend Duncan Ferguson in there right now.
Yeah.
So
and he got a turnaround the other day. Like, for some reason, it seems every team gets a new manager bounce, except for us.
Yeah, they got that new manager bounce for sure.
They did. They actually looked really good, Everton. I was really surprised. And for a bunch of Arsenal cast-offs, they looked surprisingly put together. That's a jab at Phil, for those of you that haven't been listening long.
Well, let's talk about Arsenal a bit. The guy that we need to talk about who we think's going to go in there, because we know that Freddie doesn't even have the proper cards to coach for more than 12 weeks. So there's... so basically there's 5 levels of coaching cards, and he only has a 4th level card. So he's only allowed to coach for 12 weeks. So he's got 8 more weeks max before they have to replace him.
You can do a lot of damage in 12 weeks, I'm just going to say.
I'm gonna go with a little bit of an underdog here, and I'm gonna say that Michael Arteta is gonna be the next manager of Arsenal.
I don't know, man. I think Mikel Arteta is being grooted to take over for Pep after he's done at City.
I say that
he's been his assistant there for his entire tenure. He's grown under him. He's learned from him. Arteta had the chance to go to Arsenal before Emery.
And Arsenal
Didn't.
rejected him. And if I
Yeah.
was Mikel Arteta, I'd be saying, "Oh, you're approaching me now, are you?" No, sorry. See you later.
Yeah, so
I don't see
I
that.
think he stays and takes over City once Pep's gone, which I tend to think that this is the last year of Pep Guardiola at Manchester City.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Emiratis won't be liking their current form.
I don't know. I feel like City is the kind of club where, especially if they don't win the Champions League this year, that they're going to be able to take a look and get one of those managers that maybe has won a Champions League before. I mean, this is a club, they've won 2 premierships in a row. They're probably not going to win it
No.
this year the way that they're looking. But I just don't see that a team that ultimately is really Champions League or bust with the $1 billion budget is going to turn to a guy that's never been a head coach
But that's
before,
solid, yeah.
regardless of how long he's been their assistant. Plus, the other thing is how much sense does it make to get rid of Pep and then bringing in another guy that's going to have the exact same philosophy?
I think you're right, Phil, actually. I don't think Arteta's going to Arsenal, but he's probably not going to stay at Man City. But he will stay with Pep Guardiola, wherever Pep may end up. That might well be Napoli. Which I bring up because Carlo Ancelotti, who is no stranger to you, Matt, brought Chelsea a Premier League and a Champions League. Did I get that right?
No,
I got that wrong, did I?
Premier League and FA Cup, I
It
believe.
was FA Cup, was it? Okay, so he's no stranger to the Premier League, nor to yourself, Matt. Was sacked by Napoli, who are still in the Champions League. They're coming 7th in the Serie A, which is the Italian league. And he's been linked with Arsenal. I would like to see a strong, well-seasoned manager like himself at the Emirates.
Well, let's actually take a look here. There's actually some odds listed right now by the very well-renowned publication,
The Sun.
I knew it! But they actually taking a look at the odds here. It looks like they're kind of agreeing with what I'm saying. They're saying right now that Arteta is favored. They have some odds up here. Allegri is at 9-2.
I thought he turned Arsenal down. That was the rumor I heard.
Allegri has come out and said he will not be coaching anywhere until June. So,
Okay. All right.
So if Arsenal's looking for I don't know about Freddie Ljungberg's credentials and cards and all that, but if he's not allowed to be a head coach more than 12 weeks, it will not be Allegri, because he came out and was very clear that he will not take over a club until June. But he is taking English lessons.
Just run down the list here. So it has Arteta favored at 4-1, then Allegri at 9-2, Marcelino and Vieira at 8-1, Ancelotti, Eddie Howe, Lundberg, Pochettino, Kovac, and Rafa Benitez are all 10-1.
Yeah, I reckon the fat Spanish waiter is definitely waiting tables outside of the Emirates.
He's just a fat Spanish waiter.
They say waiter or wanker. Anyway.
Well,
whatever.
I mean, he's certainly won some trophies before, but I mean, he's more of one of those retreads. I want to see them move forward. Now, I could see off those names that I just mentioned, other than Arteta, I really like Eddie Howe. I like Pochettino. I don't think he's going to come to Arsenal, though. So, how do you guys feel about Eddie Howe, and do you think he would leave Bournemouth for Arsenal right now?
Well, when Arsene Wenger was, rumoured to have been left, Eddie Howe's rather large head was filling that frame. He was mentioned more often than not in taking over from Arsene Wenger. And you remember our mate Ross Davenport as well. He's a Bournemouth fan. He said that basically that team down there is probably held together by some very smart management by Eddie Howe. Smallest ground in the league, probably one of the smallest budgets, yet still competitive. I reckon he's a great shot, actually. I mean, if he's certainly under the radar right now, but if they're not having conversations with him, I'd be very surprised and a little disappointed.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's tough because I'm not an Arsenal supporter. I personally would rather see Eddie Howe go there because I don't think he'll be successful at a large club. I honestly, if I did support Arsenal, if I had any sort of skin in the game for, wanting to get a good manager in there, I would be throwing everything I can at Pochettino.
Right.
I think he's probably the best all around, which hurts me to say. I don't like Tottenham, but he's probably the best manager that's available right now. His ability to change in-game formations, strategies, to make that substitute. I mean, look at what he did last year in the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly.
Those turnarounds, that run. And then he went into this season thinking that meant that he was going to be able to spend money and bring in players and have some say. And that's not how Tottenham operates. And Daniel Levy runs that club with a very tight purse. They have a new stadium to pay for. And so I think he went into this season completely he gave up at the beginning of the season. He understood that this was it. And so if I was Arsenal, I would be just trying to do anything and everything possible to get him to come be the next manager of my club.
I think it would be kind of, fast forwarding 5 years at White Hart Lane. And I'm being serious about this. I'm not being snarky when I say this, but you think about when Arsenal moved from Highbury to the Emirates, there was a long time when we weren't paying for players, and God knows how Arsene Wenger put up with those awful, awful players and still managed to scrape, fourth place in the league. That's the situation at Tottenham right now.
Right.
And, if Pochettino were to come to Arsenal, it would probably be, sort of 5 years on from that point where they're starting to pay off the stadium. So he could probably say, all right, cool. All right, I see how this works. It's a bit like Back to the Future, but more into the future. Anyway, that the whole analogy's gone. All right, that was rubbish. But I feel, honestly, Matt, if he were to, have some sort of inkling at Arsenal, he wanted to take the helm there, and sure, it'd be one hell of a rub in the face for our friends across town there.
Right.
It would have already happened.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Why hasn't it happened?
Yeah. And he's not even really being linked with the job. My only thought is that he's made it very clear to his representatives have made it very clear to Arsenal that he is not going to coach there, at least at this point, right after he's left Tottenham.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I just think looking at the list that I just keep coming back to it's going to be Arteta because I don't really think anybody else makes sense for one reason or another.
Well, yeah, I mean, Patrick Vieira, I feel like he is a Freddie Ljungberg, Arsenal, dyed-in-the-wool red. I feel like he is a long-term project, and honestly, I don't know whether Arsenal is currently a long-term project, and Vieira would be great, but I don't think he's going to be given the time at Arsenal to be able to sculpt the team in his image, which was fantastic, by the way.
Vieira is being linked right now, too, with some MLS jobs. I'm just throwing this out there. There's an Arsenal supporter that coaches a very good soccer team in the United States, particularly in Arizona. I'm just saying, maybe Rick Shantz. Give him a call.
Arsenal. Hey, he's in Europe at the moment as well. Maybe he's having a few words over there.
Give him a call, Arsenal. Let him go show what he can do.
The cards either because he was just doing his level 2 US card last.
Oh, you ruin all the fun, Phil.
I'm sure.
What does that give him? Like 2 hours at the helm? I'm sure he'd take it.
I'm sure that's the reason why he's not being considered for the Arsenal job.
I mean, if he just had that card and then the 5 other European cards, he'd be right there, top candidate.
Look, all I know is if Coach Rick Shantz goes anywhere, there's going to be a riot.
Yeah.
I told him at the open house, this is completely off subject, but I told him at the open house they had towards the end of last year, I said, you know what, you don't ever leave, except if it's to go coach the national team, then that would be okay. And he just kind of chuckled and said he'd love to do that eventually. But
well, maybe, yeah. I mean, he's got a long career ahead of him.
Phoenix, you get rid of Coach Chance, there's going to be hell to pay.
I don't think that's a bad
we're
segue, though, because that does kind of bring us to something else that we wanted to talk about tonight, which is all the new signings that the Phoenix Rising have made. And we've been talking about this a little bit off the air, is that last season it was kind of late January, early February when you started hearing the Phoenix Rising were bringing in their new players, and they are just every day almost. It seems like they're bringing in somebody else. They've brought in. I think Santi Moore is probably the biggest name. He was part of the double-headed monster in New Mexico last year, and then they picked up. It seems like they're poaching from their rivals. They picked up a defender from Orange County, a midfielder from San Antonio. So they're knocking down the teams around them and building up their roster. What are your thoughts? I know you've really been on top of this, Matt. Tell us about some of these new guys and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of let's go strengthen the team and let's go out and poach guys that, one of the things Coach Shant said in his video about Santi Moore is that, he was sick of seeing him score goals against us. So it's almost like, let's go out and get that guy. And if you're a guy like Santi Moore, and New Mexico had a great start to the season and then absolutely just kind of tanked it. And he's looking at what's happening here, and he's looking at, I could go be playing with Junior Flemings and Adam Jean and Solomon Asante and Jose Aguinaga and Kevin Lambert, right? I mean, there's all this. Yeah. it just makes sense, and so we pick him up. He was the third leading goal scorer for New Mexico last year. Or second, I can't remember. Third. He was third.
Okay.
And then we picked up Owasu Ansi Contour from Orange County SC, a guy that can play left back and center back.
Right. He's a guy that played in the Ghana Premier League with Solomon Asante. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so we're just bringing in these guys. And then today they announced the signing of Jack Barnby, who used to be on the books at Portland Timbers, played for their Portland Timbers 2, was played at San Antonio.
Man U youth player or something.
Yeah, Man United youth player. And so we're bringing in younger guys that are talented, that can play. And this is going to be interesting to see what Coach Shantz does with all these guys now. I mean, we have a ton of attacking talent, and you can only play.
Not very short of that.
No, and you can only play, 3 or 4 guys kind of in that main attacking role. So maybe we're looking at a formation change. I don't know. Maybe we're looking at fielding a very strong U.S. Open Cup lineup to go and challenge for that.
Oh, okay.
That's something I was going to say. As I was looking at this, and I was wondering, are they building this up specifically to try to make a deep run in the U.S. Open Cup? Because I think that's something where maybe the past couple of years they didn't care about it quite as much, but now it's been something where now it's kind of a thorn in the side, because it's been 3 years in a row that they haven't gotten past the second round, which is the first round that they participate in. And I think that's part of it, but I think ultimately they're just kind of building an all-star team almost.
It's interesting that, and I feel like they're really sort of flexing their muscle in the USL, the Phoenix Rising, because they're not really sort of, sure. I mean, there's players in and about overseas leagues, but really, I mean, sort of poaching these good players off the other teams is sort of a statement as if to say, hey, you know what? We're still going to be better than you.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it is financial muscle, but it's also the brand, the actual muscle of the brand, if that makes sense, being able to bring across these players without breaking the bank and doing it by the looks of it. I think this is a real sort of statement off-season buying spree by Phoenix Rising. I've been very impressed.
Yeah, it's been wild, man. I mean, I wasn't expecting it this year. as especially some of these names they've been dropping. I mean, when the first one they drop after, I mean, the first guy that's new, not a returning player, the first guy is Santi Moore.
Right.
It was kind of like this eye-opening, like, okay, we mean business this offseason. We're making a statement that we're coming for USL Cup. We're coming for US Open Cup. Like, it seems like we're taking every competition seriously. And as a season ticket holder, man, I can't wait for the first home game next year, because I think it's just going to be crazy.
I was just going to quickly say that what you were saying about the names is something really that does stick out, because the reality of the situation is that usually if a USL team is making a signing, the first thing you're having to do is go in and look up and see who this guy is. These are guys that we're literally not having to go look up because we already know who they are.
Right.
Right, exactly. Now, here's another thing about it, which I don't think has been discussed too much on social media. This is a back office that clearly knows what they're doing, and they clearly understood that there was one returning striker, one striker that was not returning, which was announced today, and that was in JJ Johnson. I'm sad to see him go. I thought he was excellent. He had a bit of a rough season last year because of injury and returning back from injury, but it seemed like they had that covered.
Yeah, I mean, he was a fan favorite. It's tough to be sad, and he got injured, which was unfortunate. He was coming back into a lineup that was firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
When he got on the field, it wasn't. He seemed just a bit off. That injury really set him back, and he's older, right? He's going to be 30 years old next season. So I think there was just kind of taking all that into account, and then knowing that, we're going to bring in guys like Santi Moore, we're going to bring in guys like Jack Barmby. There wasn't really going to be a place for JJ this year. And so giving him that respect, to saying, thank you for what you've done, go out and find some place where you're going to play. Is cool to see our club.
I don't think he was ever 100% coming back from the injury, and I mean, this is something that I hadn't mentioned before, but I suppose now that the season is over and all that it's something that I probably am okay to talk about. Is that when I went out to practice in person, while the rest of the team was training.
You what?
What's that?
What?
When I went to practice.
Oh! I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. Sorry, mate. Nothing against bloody prowess over there.
When I went out to practice in person,
gotcha.
While the rest of the team was training, he was mostly over on the sidelines stretching out and kind of working his injury, and that was very late in the season.
Right.
I'd say 2 weeks before the playoffs started. So I just think he wasn't 100%, and it was still kind of working back into it, and no fault of his.
Quite right. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Rising. Preseason, I think, starts off in February, which is only just barely a few months away. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, guys. Jingle bells, Unai smells. It's almost Christmas time. For listeners who aren't in the UK or seasoned EPL fans, there's a bit of a cachet when it comes to being top at Christmas time, isn't there? Generally, and it's probably only about 30 or 40% of the time, but generally, the people at the top of the league, or the team at the top of the league, come Christmas, tend to go on and win it. There have been some serious cases where that has not happened. Liverpool!
As far as I know, it's 100% if you're not Liverpool and 0% if you are Liverpool.
True.
Yeah.
This year, it's looking like it's going to be Liverpool. Somebody else!
I thought we'd have a look at the league. We're probably, 5 games out before that Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas for everyone here in the US. The Boxing Day game. Who do you see from the 4 top leagues in the English league? Who do you see being top come Christmas? And I mean, we won't spend long on the Premier League, but let's go.
All right, so we want to start with League 2 and then just work our way up?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
All right, so I think come Christmas time, you got to say Swindon Town's going to be top of League 2.
Form says yes.
Says yes. You know, they're three points ahead right now. Exeter City, Forest Green, you know, have stumbled a little bit. I'm going to go Swindon Town, top of League 2.
Okay. I think there's probably a team that has struggled a little bit of late. They've finally got themselves a win back on the board, but they do have a game in hand. That's Cheltenham. Mm-hmm. Cheltenham probably has a little, I reckon, a tilt at Swindon. But no, Swindon for me too.
Now, do you think, Phil? What do you think, man?
Well, I mean, here's what you're looking at. I mean, Cheltenham is the only team that does have a better goal difference than Swindon. Right. Like Arran was saying, their form has been slowly improving. They did finally get a win after 3 draws in a row. Swindon has just been on fire, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really hard to go against them. I mean, what you really have to do is kind of look at the schedule a little bit. And one thing I see here is we have Forest Green against Swindon. That's a top of the table battle. So I'm going to say if Swindon beats Forest Green a week from Saturday on the 21st, so I think that it's going to come down to the winner of that game between Forest Green and Swindon on the 21st. Whoever wins that match will top the table 4 days later on Christmas.
All right. Forest Green, they started off strong. Have had a little bit of a rough little trot just now. You're right. I think that could be really interesting. So we said Swindon, and Phil?
I'm going to say the winner of the Forest Green Swindon game.
So who's going to win that game? Come on, I'm putting you on the spot here. Come on, you can do it.
Well, let me...
Go on, let's be hated by someone.
It's at Forest Green, so I'll say the Vegans win it.
All right, Vegans, yeah. All right, that's what I like, a little bit of controversy. We can't all be right here, okay? On to League One, and
it's gotta be Wickham. I mean, Wickham is just the class of the league right now. They're on 40 points. They're 4 points ahead of Ipshit, and the Tractor Boys 4 points ahead of the Tractor Boys.
The country music band.
Yes, my new country music band. Maybe I should tell people about that.
Is it real? Is it actually happening?
I sang the first show last Saturday.
Are you kidding me? How do we not know about this?
On Facebook.
Why wasn't it across the... Well, they're following on Facebook, right? Come on. I kid. I didn't know that. Okay, well, there you go. Cool. I feel slightly slighted, but that's okay.
I'm going with Wickham. I mean, they've been the class of League One. What do you guys think?
Arran?
Well, I'm still a bit dirty about that whole Tractor Boy thing, so I'm going to say Ipswich with a game in hand. Haven't lost one for a while. Haven't won one for a while either. Yeah, I reckon they're going to be top come Christmas. Not walking the league, but apparently they're not... a country and western music band either.
You know what? I got to go with the Trevor Chalobah led Ipswich Town as well. I think they got a game in hand right now. They're only 4 points behind Wickham. I think massive clubs turn up in massive moments. And so if the...
So it's not going to be Sunderland then.
I think by the time Christmas rolls around, Ipswich Town, the Tractor Boys, are going to be sitting at top League One. But I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to say Ipswich Town will not be promoted, though, at the end of this year.
What?
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Wow, what a ballsy call. Why would you say something so brave?
I don't know. I've been on a lot of medicine the last couple days trying to fight off a cold, so maybe it's just the medicine getting to me. But I just felt like
That's
making
some
a
good
bold
stuff.
prediction.
All right, okay.
Eh,
Well, while we're there, I mean, who else? Who might get there? Who will be promoted from
Well,
there? If it's
I
not
mean,
Ipswich,
realistically, at Christmas at least, it's got to be Wickham or Ipswich. There's just not enough games left for. There's eight points between Wickham and third. There's not enough games left to make up 8 points before Christmas.
I think for me, like a team
yeah.
that I would like, I just for some reason call it nostalgia to see get promoted out of League One up into the championship would be Blackpool, sitting at fourth right
yes.
now on 32 points.
had a good run.
They have a pretty good run of form, with recently. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to see Blackpool, especially after everything they went through with their old ownership group and everything that,
Yes,
just
exactly.
to see them go back up into the championship and push to be back into a Premier League team again. It'd be a cool story for them, and just kind of
Agreed.
sticking it to their owner, who was a complete dill hole. I don't know.
Dildo. What else have we got for him?
Yeah, so I'd say it'd be really cool to see Blackpool promoted.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, Simon Grayson certainly is doing a great job there, and I could definitely see that happening. And well, let's take a look at the championship, and that's a 2-horse race.
It's the second of our 2-horse race.
Leeds or West Brom. Who are you guys going with?
Let's toss a coin. I got nothing. I don't know. I got nothing.
I mean, so if you just look at the table right now, West Brom does have that game in hand. So let's say theoretically they win it. They are 2 points ahead of Leeds, but I think come Christmas, Marcelo Bielsa has Leeds sitting atop of the championship, looking to gain that automatic promotion into the Premiership.
Well, we've said that before. We've been horrendously wrong. Let's just point out how close these two are at the top. And I kind of find this really kind of amusing because they talk about on the championship groups on Facebook and various other places about how it's basically boing boing between these two teams. One wins, the other one wins. One wins, the other one wins. It's quite funny. But they're super, super close. So matches played. Leeds has played 21, West Brom 20. 14 and 13 are the wins. Goal difference, 22 to Leeds, 21 ahead to West Brom, and the points are 46 to Leeds and 45 to West Brom, remembering that West Brom has that game in hand. It is a ding-dong battle, this one here.
I think what's really impressive and what sticks out to me more than anything else is that Leeds has only allowed 10 goals in 21 games this year. That means you're allowing less than half a goal per game. That's going to be hard to stop. I mean, West Brom is better on offense, but I mean, 41 goals in 20 games is the most of the league by West Brom. It's a great number, but it's not a number that makes you gasp. 10 goals allowed in 21 games. That's as strong as it gets.
Defense wins championships.
There we go. I think I have my answer. You convinced me there, Phil, with that argument. That was a solid argument. I'm going with Leeds at the top.
So we're all saying Leeds then?
Oh, shit, are we? All right, okay, West Brom. What the hell?
It's hard not to. I mean, West Brom, I mean, they're just not my bag.
All right. Nice fun there.
Another team I just want to touch on briefly, Preston sitting at 6th. Seemed to turn around, finished 14th last season, 61 points. And they seem to be, they've had a bad run of form here recently. They just won, but I think it's interesting to see Preston up there at 6th, and hopefully maybe they keep that going. I would kind of like to see maybe some of these other teams that have been floating in the championship for a while to start to make some moves. Bristol City sitting at 4th.
Sure.
Nottingham Forest at 5. It would be cool to see Nottingham Forest back in the Premiership, kind of being, an old Premier League First Division team. So
Disappointed with the way that Swansea has sunk. The Swans are certainly
Well, with
not looking so good.
Preston would also give us a chance to have a Lancashire team in the Premier League. So I think I'll go for that. Premier League. So who's going to be the top? Can anybody even catch Liverpool?
No.
I mean,
Let's move on.
I don't think before Christmas ends.
Leicester are putting in a strong show.
I think. I don't know.
What?
Bold. You know what? Bold prediction. I think Leicester City wins the Premiership.
Man, you're probably the only one saying that, but
Liverpool
have a good bet on it now is all I'm going to say. It's not going to be 6,000 to 1, but have a solid bet at that.
Liverpool twice has been at the top of the table at Christmas and has twice let that slip and let it go. So Leicester's been outstanding, and I think Leicester's a team that I don't think anyone's ever going to pay attention to them because you still hear about there's a 14-point gap between Liverpool and City.
Right.
Which is true, but City's sitting in third, and there's a team sitting in second, 6 points above them. And so I think Leicester, if they keep playing well, if they can beat City, if they can beat Liverpool, I could see Liverpool's going to slip up. They're not going to keep up this crazy tempo for the entire year.
They've got such a skinny squad as well, like a couple of injuries in key places.
FA Cup's about to start up soon. Christmas season. I mean, there's a good chance we could see Leicester close the gap before Christmas and be nipping at their heels all next season. And let's think, outside of the FA Cup, what other competitions is Leicester in? They're not in a European competition this year.
No, they're not.
So,
but here's the thing: there's this striking parallels to 2016 because in 2016, when Leicester won the league, all the other top 6 teams were just basket cases, and you can see this shit happening again. Do you know what I mean? All it takes is a couple of sideways games for Liverpool, and Leicester are right in that hunt. And they look like a team with purpose as they did back then. It's amazing. I find this incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I just think Liverpool's too strong. Leicester, they look good. They might finish second. They're playing a hell of a good football match, and I think that finishing ahead of Man City will be a huge accomplishment. I think they could do that, but Liverpool's just too good.
All right. So we're saying Liverpool top of the table come Christmas.
Well, so the big test for Leicester is going to be in that Christmas window because they play away at City on the 21st, and then they play Liverpool at home on the 26th.
Ooh, that's going to be a game to watch. Keep an eye out on that one, kids.
But we already know City's getting 3 points coming up.
All right, yes, okay. We're not talking about Arsenal. They've got no chance. If they were top of the table come Christmas, it'd be like that elephant up on top of whatever. Well, I've already done that joke. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen for a couple of years. Let's move on, Phil. We're bigger fans than that.
Well, what else did we have here tonight, Aaron?
So, we've talked about, the best in the competitions, the various competitions, and I wanted to have a little chat about the best of the rest. And by that, I mean standout players in teams that aren't performing so well. Do you know what I mean? Like these types of players hold a team up. They're pulling them out of relegation zone, if you will. I'm particularly looking at Premier League, but you guys can go and have a look at the other leagues as well. But who do you think is a standout star in an otherwise very, very ordinary team? I can start if you like, because I have one lined up.
Well, go ahead, Aaron.
All right, fine. For me, it's Danny Ings from Southampton. He is the forward for Southampton. I think he's in the form of his life, this guy. He's had 5 goals in 5 games. He's had 9 goals in all appearances for Southampton this year, but most recently 5 and 5. I think he is key to Southampton staying up, and he's certainly key to Ralph Hasenhüttl keeping his job right now, because honestly, that was the coach we didn't speak about that should have got sacked. I actually think we predicted everyone apart from Ralph to get sacked, so that's probably why he's still there. So he's 27 years old, this guy. He's not quite a veteran, but he's not quite a youngster either, but he's certainly peaking right now when he should be peaking. Just to go back over his career, he's played a handful of games for Liverpool, over 4 years, mind you. He was kind of like a second-string player there. He even earned a cap for England back in 2014-15 when he played 35 games for Burnley. Let's just say Burnley weren't very impressive back then. I think current form suggests that he might not get a call up for England because of that weight of numbers in that forward area there for England, but he's certainly got Gareth Southgate. He's certainly got his attention, who is the England manager. He, for me, has been the most impressive player in the Premier League out of that horrible bottom quadrant there.
Yeah, man. I think there's some interesting guys in the Premier League. You got Jack Grealish at Aston Villa, who's an outstanding player. If Aston Villa is not able to stay up this season, I don't see him staying.
No.
You got Felipe Anderson at West Ham, who's an outstanding winger. But I'm going to jump to the Championship for mine. And
okay.
When you brought this up, this wasn't hard for me to think of. So there's a guy playing at Charlton Athletic. Right now they are sitting. Let me check. They are sitting at 17th in the Championship. They're on a bad run of form, but they have a 19-year-old who's on loan from Chelsea, playing his first year.
Of course he is. Just so you know about this guy. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
Well, he's playing his first year of senior football, and he is their top scorer right now. Midfielder, great talent, and so it's just cool to watch him develop at a place like Charlton. They're not doing well, but he is. Conor Gallagher. There's been talks of Chelsea recalling him in January, and getting him integrated into the first team.
Okay. Conor Gallagher sounds very Irish. Is he?
He's
I'm not being smart about that. Okay,
yeah, he's English.
I'll just shut the hell up then. Okay, fine.
I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, because you got a team like Crystal Palace sitting 10th. Is that really underperforming for them?
Yes.
Or, I mean, Wilfred Zaha is a decent player. Maybe the other guy I can think of in the Premiership is Nathan Ake at Bournemouth, who's outstanding, and Bournemouth is just Bournemouth. But yeah. I don't know, Phil. Did you have anybody?
Well, I actually had two names. So in the Premier League, we'll go with the most underperforming team in the Premier League, Dial Square.
You can't do that. No, we're still in the top half.
And I will say that there's a guy who has an excellent name, and he has been a bright spot in an otherwise very, very poor back line, and that would be Callum Chambers, who I think he's been Arsenal's best defender, and he was a guy that last year he did some good things with Fulham, but we weren't really even sure if he was going to be playing for Arsenal, and I hate to see where Arsenal would be without him. But the guy that I have overall, and this was the very first guy that came to mind when Arran told me about this idea, and that is a guy who's in his fourth season with Accrington Stanley.
Okay.
Jordan Clark.
There we go.
Now, when you think of Accrington Stanley, of course, everybody knows Sean McConville and, Billy Key before this year. But the one guy, and just to give you an idea, so he started 19 out of 19 games this year, 1,700 minutes already, 3 goals, 2 assists. Last season, he started 43 games, played over 3,800 minutes. The season before that, he played 43 games, 3,700 minutes. Before that, 3,100 minutes. So he's played over 3,000 minutes for Accrington the last 3 years. He's going to easily get past that again this year. And he is just a guy that he has been by far the most consistent player on the roster. He also leads League One in crosses into the box with 58 so far this year, which is a really impressive number. And he's definitely the guy on the club from the midfield that is best at advancing the ball forward from the dribble. In terms of a guy who's going to set up and can dribble the ball, can make passes, is always making things happen, moving the ball forward. That's Jordan Clark. I mean, what can you say about a guy that plays over 3,000 minutes and starts every game every year?
It's amazing. There's a stalwart is what that is. Before we move on, I did have one other as well. John Joe Shelby for Newcastle. Again, he's 27 years of age. He's seen some Premier League. He's no stranger to most people, I think. He's had 128 appearances, only 19 goals. But can I say 5 of those has come this year for Newcastle United. So he's on a bit of a tear as well. He looks like
I didn't even know Newcastle had scored 5 goals.
Well, he's probably scored all 5 of them. All right? He started 10 and scored 5 goals, so that's one every other game, which is pretty good. He looks like my mate Matt McLennan. He's got my haircut. He's a pretty ugly dude all round, really. But he has certainly sort of propped up that Newcastle attack of late, and he's made Almiron look like some guy that sort of stands around the pitch not wondering what he's doing, which is what Almiron kind of looks like, you know, sort of deer in the headlights sort of thing, waving his arms around going, oh, God, how did I get here? Anyway, John Joe Shelby. I just had to put it. I had to put that in there because I needed to have a shout out for one of our biggest fans, Matt McLennan. How are you, mates?
What's up, Matt? Go Raiders, not the Oakland ones, the ones you watch.
Speaking of,
you know what I'm talking
yes,
about.
I do. The Kembla Raiders. So with that, I think we're done. That's our 1 hour. Damn, that flies fast, doesn't it?
It's good to be back, though, boys.
It is great to be back.
It is. And we will be back on a weekly basis going forward after our little holiday break, and you can expect our regular. You'll get to hear from us more. I don't know if that's a good thing or
lucky
not.
you.
But as always, thank you for joining us. And I'm Phil Kennedy, and for my brother from down under,
my mate from State 48, Mr. Wizard over there.
It's been good, guys.
See you later, mate.
Go Dial Square.